All right, man. Y'all all knew y'all was going to get something from me today because the NGS headline came out and they released the roadmap, which I've talked about. If you've been in my streams, you know I've talked about this kind of make or break for the game. It's kind of make or break for the game what 2025 is going to have in store. So they did drop this within the headline, and we want to address this. I want to dive into this and really give my input on this and what I think is going to be the scope of the game for 2025 and moving forward, into 2026 or whatnot. So we're gonna go over, the little tidbits of the headline. We'll kind of skim through some things, and then we'll really dive into the roadmap, into what my thoughts are on that, into every little piece of it, and we'll just kind of get you prepared for what is coming up in the immediate and what to expect down the line. And just the final thoughts on that. So, but first, be sure to like, subscribe. Appreciate you very much. Helps out a lot. So straight out the gate, of course, we're going to be getting an update to the Super Genesis Festival on the 1st. So you can expect the seasonal shop to get refreshed and all the good lights on that. Of course, we're going to have a new LTQ that's coming as well. And an abundance of AC scratches. This is all in the first part of January. First part of January pretty much isn't really a whole lot going on there. So don't really expect too much there. Like I said, it's just really just the AC scratches galore, which all have presets, preset skill items, like like preset skill level 4 success and material not needed or whatever, for the scratch count bonuses on those AC. So this would be good if you need those for people who are trying to scratch on these AC scratches, which are all pretty unique. And if you want to do that, then of course do that. So LTQ, which is the large enemy cleanup, is going to consist of killing a whole bunch of just giant dread enemies. Pretty straightforward. Pretty sure you'll probably be able to get tickets in this, and that's pretty much it. The free and collab is also in the first part of January, and that's, like I said, pretty much it. The second half of January is really where we start to get things. Like I said, we're just going to kind of skim through this, and then we'll get to the roadmap where I'll actually kind of address things. But the second half of the January update gets to some things I do want to touch on, which do coincide with the roadmap. The first thing being this Dual Quest Ultra. So this Dual Quest Ultra is actually pretty interesting. I do like this very much because it has different ranks, and then you get to rank 10 and they go to the next one. So pretty much you get increased difficulty, and it's through time. They do have it spaced out pretty long, which definitely kind of says that, yo, we're trying to keep you occupied until we can get some more stuff here, which I don't really like that because it's obviously what's going on here when you look at the roadmap. That being said, the concept of the fight itself, I do like that. I do like that a lot. Also, you're going to see 2 new augments that are introduced. The first one will be introduced in here, which is the Majis Halpha Now. Now, when you look at this, you're going to notice, first and foremost, you're going to be like, oh, a new augment. But then when you actually look at it, you're going to realize it's the same thing as Lex Alpha Now. Same thing. It's just flip-flop on the PP and HP. So you get more PP here and less HP. But it's the same potency. It's 5.0% potency. So, but what this appears to be is pretty much just a very easy way to get, Lux Alpha Now. That's pretty much what it is. That being said, this is also going to, more so even brokenly so, make Abandac users super duper strong. So if you're not using an Abandac, pretty much if you're not a Vael, do not expect to be placing high on Augs records or anything like that. Until some newer augments come out, which usually slash Abandac and make it not as relevant. But with the inclusion of these 2 new augments, which are the original potencies of the original augments, that adds for some pretty strong variables to Abandac players who would otherwise have to use LC variants or S variants of these. So just keep that in mind. But this Dual Quest Extra does give the Majis Halpha Now materials for it, as well as you're going to receive some Ruined Masquerader items for each level that you clear. Once you get to the top, you get a reward. And so this will happen throughout. Like I said, they're going to release these in phases, so like every couple weeks or something like that. So it's getting kind of stretched out in that regard. But I do like the concept of this because it's kind of like a tower climb in a way, where it gets more difficult and you get to each floor and you keep going up. So I do kind of like this in a sense. But just letting y'all know that right there off the jump, that's the biggest thing that you really want to be aware of for the second half of January. It's really just the middle of January when this comes out. And then understanding that Majis Halpha Now is really just Lux Alpha Now, but with more PP and less HP. So understand that. Now on January 19th, we also get a treasure scratch new one, because we have a current treasure scratch going right now, of course. As you're aware, when you go here, we have a treasure scratch going right now. So make sure I need to spend all this. I have 68 freaking tickets. But we're going to have another one of these that pop up on the later half of January. So keep that in mind, because these are packed with goodies. So they're pretty much just handing stuff out to us in a large amount. So do keep that in mind, that we're going to be getting another one of those if you're trying to plan accordingly. You know, if you want to spend on certain things or whatnot. There's also another Anaddi scratch coming in the month as well. Keep that in mind for anyone who's trying to build something, or maybe, you know, like the prices of Anaddis right now, which shouldn't be too bad in the first place, because I mean, augment transfer passes have really allowed items like Anaddis to not be as expensive, because you don't have to fully re-aug with another Anaddi, because aug transfer pass now. So it's definitely cut the price on those tremendously, but nonetheless, it should cut them further, you know, later on in the month as the scratch reappears. So do keep that in mind as well. And then, you know how I mentioned that there's two new augments. The second augment comes in the Dalion Urgent Quest. So the Dalion Urgent Quest is going to be an 8-man version of your Dalion fight, your typical Dalion fight. I believe we actually had this Urgent Quest before. I believe we had an 8-man Dalion fight before. Urgent Quest. I'm pretty sure we did. Like right after Dalion came out, I'm pretty sure we had this. But in this one, the 12 series will be a drop within this Urgent Quest. This will be a drop in there, as well as the materials needed to make the new Gladius Soul augment. So the new Gladius Soul is the Majis Gladius Soul, which is HP plus 35, PP plus 5, and potency plus 4.75. For comparison, this one is the opposite. So it gives a decrease on PP and an increase on HP. So the HP is plus 20, PP is minus 2, I think, or something like that. PP plus 7, so it's going to decrease it by 1, and then HP plus 10. So keep that in mind, and for reference, at least I didn't pull it up before for reference. I know I have a Lux Alpha now sitting around. For reference, it's PP plus 6, whereas the Majis Alpha now is PP plus 8. So keep that in mind. That's going to be the adjustments to those that you're going to see. But the Majis comes from the Dual Quest Extra, and the Gladius Soul, the Majis Grand Gladius Soul, comes from the Dalion D2 Urgent Quest. Now, what's my actual input on these augments? And, you know, because they're the same, right? They're the same as the original basis, as Lux Alpha now is Land Gladius Soul, the same potency, you know, just minor changes on those. I would imagine what we're likely seeing here is that you're probably going to need 2 or 3 Majis augments to make a new augment in the future. Maybe from Vael, from Darkfall's Vael, or something like that. I imagine that that's what's going to happen. And keep in mind that to craft these, it requires just your regular, like, Gladius Soul and Alpha now. It doesn't require Lux Alpha now, and then the specific augment, or Land Gladius Soul and then the specific augment. It just requires Gladius Soul, and it requires Alpha now, the lower tier versions, the original versions. So keep that in mind. But do not be surprised if that's how that works. If those end up being the mats for a even bigger augment. That's right around the corner. We knew that, and I mentioned this in my streams. Like, I knew the minute that they introduced, you know, the LC versions of these high tier augments that they did, you know, this past month, that a new augment was coming. So that's usually how that works. You know, when they start making all the high tier augments very accessible or into LCs, then you know a new augment's coming probably the next month. That's what I've been talking about. So that's exactly what we're seeing, that same type of cycle happening there. And so that would be my input for the augment. So take with that information however you may want to, and however you may want to go about that. But pretty much, these are just very easy ways to get Lux Alpha Nows. And Land Gladia Grand. I don't know if it's Land or Grand. One of them was whatever. The Gigas Maste is this one, and then the Gladia Soul was that one, whichever one. But these are pretty much just easy options to get those augments. So do keep that in mind, as it really just kind of creates for a much even more easier gearing landscape than we've already pretty much had. So And so on the 22nd, we have another LTQ, which is the Snowfield Cleanup Off, which is going to be an 8-man LTQ. This one's kind of different in that pretty much going through it, it's going to have trial site missions, but you're really fighting like a multiple bosses at one time. It's going to charge up your Mars unit as you go through, but pretty much it's just you're going through the area, you're fighting mobs, and it's pretty straightforward in that regard. It's going to be an 8-man LTQ, so do look forward to that as well. It's going to be on the 22nd. I do want to note that on the 27th, there's a 150% RDR boost that's going to happen for all quests. There are RDR boosts all throughout pretty much the month and the next coming month, as we're very well aware. There's a Super Genesis Festival RDR boost that starts next week as well, with a preset boost added to that. So we're going to see RDR boosts all throughout. They also did mention, this is important to note, that at the start of February, it's the PSO2 Ultra Day, which we get annually, which is super big on RDR boosts and preset skill boosts. The Super Genesis boost ends on the 4th. PSO2 Ultra Day starts on the 1st. So for 3 days, these boosts will overlap. And they did mention this within the headline. So during those 3 days, we're going to see some significant boosts. So do kind of plan that, or keep that in the back of your head. February 1st through the 3rd or 4th should see it's going to be a nice little period where everything kind of overlaps in terms of boost. So do keep that in mind. All right, and so now we want to move on to the roadmap. And kind of what we want to talk about there, because there's a handful of things that we want to look at on the roadmap that really kind of detail where we're going with the game. There was also a video that they dropped from the team that kind of gave a rundown and what the plans are for the future of the game. This was in the headline as well, but I just kind of want to give my input on this and go through it with the roadmap up, so we all can see it. I can kind of just be like, okay, well, this and this and this and this and this and this and this. So as you can see here in the roadmap, as mentioned, it was all the things I kind of talked about there. The extra dual quest is all coming until late Jan, and then we're gonna have the addition of Rerun Masquerader, so all that. So for February to March, April to May, June to July, August and onwards, that's what the rest of the roadmap is going to be like. So let's kind of address these things as is, and I'm gonna let you know what the concerns are and what the pros are, and really what it really boils down to at the end of the day, where things are going to stand at the end of it all when all the dust settles. Okay, so in February to March, we do have the Hunter expansion, which I'm very much looking forward to. We all know I'm a heavy wires player. We all know that. I know a lot of y'all hunters are generally sword players. I tend to take the class where people are like, oh, that class is not good, that weapon's not good. Well, let me see if it's actually not good. Or maybe it's just the way that you're playing it. You know what I'm saying? Let's push it to the limit. The limit! You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much me. You push it to the limit. But anyways, Hunter expansion is coming. We also have the level class cap coming to level 100. Those are both used coming in February to March. And then the addition of Dark Falls Vael is also coming as well. So in regards to this, the level class being raised to level 100, a lot of people have been asking about, do you think if the level class is going to go to 200? I had this, someone actually asked me this in stream the other day. I gave a pretty lengthy response. And pretty much, it just really depends, as I was saying, on what we see on the roadmap and what we can kind of expect from the game moving forward. And, we don't see another level increase on here. If there is one, it's after August. So it's hard to say what they're really planning to do. Because I don't know if they're going to try to go a more horizontal route, or if they're actually just going to keep doing the vertical with the level increases like they kind of have been doing. Here in recent history, we would see another level cap increase in this period, because I think we've been seeing one like every 2 to 3 months or something like that. So this is February, and we're seeing February to August at least, and we're not seeing another one there. That's half a year. So that in itself does bring some question, but there's bigger questions that we will address, or that I want to address here. There's bigger questions that we really want to address, or that kind of leave question marks in there. However, we do see some things like the relay quest. The relay quest that you see this on here, if you're looking at this and you're like, what the hell is that? Relay quest, they said, is pretty much a new quest that they're adding that's going to change every other day. This is good. We need something like this. This is good. Something that changes every other day. Hopefully, the incentive is there to do it every other day. So otherwise, if there's no incentive, then there's not really why would we do it. So hopefully there's a proper incentive to be doing it every other day. But we definitely need something like this. The relay quest that allows you to, it gives you a reason to kind of hop on, and it changes every other day. Kind of like how Lucille changes every day. I really enjoyed that about Lucille. Lucille has always been some of my favorite content in the game, and relay quest I think will be good for the game. Of course, it just really boils down to incentive. So if you're wondering what relay quest is, that's what relay quest is. As you see, there's times 7, so there's going to be a handful of different variants of it as well. I do want to mention that in the April to May, where they mentioned limited time quests times 5, they did say that these were all new limited time quests. From my understanding is what they said, or maybe they were saying that to the new standing quest. Not sure exactly what that wording was, but nonetheless, we have 5 limited time quests coming April to May. And we do have a new standing quest as well with the Braver expansion coming in the April to May portion. A lot of y'all been looking forward to the Braver expansion, so I know that people are definitely excited for that, for sure, most certainly. Back to February and March real quick. Of course, you have the addition of Dark Falls Vael. This is going to be a fight that we're definitely very much looking for. They gave a sneak peek as seen here.
Its name is Vael. As something like their emperor. Take care of your world.
And so in this sneak peek, you can see that the gameplay elements of this fight look pretty intense. And I like this. I like this very much a lot. I think that this fight is probably going to be pretty enjoyable. It's like there's a phase there where, where it's combat, you're doing this. And then there's a phase where you're like planetary, floating in the sky, attacking this guy with your Mars units, which is pretty cool. I like this. I like this this mix up of the combat. I like the scenery of it, and it makes sense. It's like, you're like in space or like in some realm. Okay, so you gotta use your Mars unit. You know what I'm saying? You're flying. You gotta float. You gotta be in the spacecraft. You gotta Star Wars this thing. You gotta show them the dark side. You know what I'm saying? Or show them the gray side, or show them the light side, or show them the right side, left side, blue side. Anyways, whatever. This fight looks pretty good. I'm looking forward to this fight. Now, there's a story update that you see on the roadmap here. We'll see how heavy this is. They didn't mention that we're gonna get some other story updates, but it's not till August and onwards. But then they said that it's going to be like a mini episode for that one in the August one. So now look, the whole story thing, I talked about this before, and of course people have always talked about this. But I talked about this before, and I said how problematic it was when. Was that the last time that they brought up the roadmap? I think it was when they first brought up the 2025 roadmap. I think I stated that. So maybe a couple months ago, when they first brought it up, I say how problematic that was. I think hell, it may have been before that, but this is problematic. Now, in some games, in some MMOs, the story is not really as big of an issue. Simply put. It's not. In some games, it's simply not as big of an issue. However, Phantasy Star is not one of those games. Phantasy Star is a game that heavily revolves around the story. And most all the Phantasy Star Online games have done that. Of course, in the past, it's much easier to incorporate a story in a game that's not live service. Plain and simple. So, obviously, games that were on Dreamcast and GameCube, which had offline modes and stuff like that, much easier to have stories for those. So base PSO2, yeah, it's a bit easier to have a story for that because the gameplay mechanics of it were the exact same as everything prior to it from 2000 upwards. So you're not having to spend as much time on the gameplay aspects, so you can focus more on the story. Whereas NGS is a new game, a new way to play. So you're kind of juggling with both of these things. So I do understand the obstacle there. However, for a game like this, the story not being there really disconnects the players. And I'm not sure how they can get over this hump, but it is a problematic hump. Like, for sure, hands down, 100%, it's a problematic hump. Because, you know, you introduce all these bosses and stuff like this, and I'm glad that there's a story that's being paired with Dark Falls Vael. They did say that. For anyone who's wondering, the story update that they have there, Dark Falls Vael, there is a story that goes with Dark Falls Vael, so that is good. We're not just getting another random Dark Falls like Solus or Dalion, you know, with no story to it. You know, it's okay. You know, so there's a story there with that. But, you know, it's important to introduce these, you know, these bosses and stuff with stories, because in some games it's okay. Like, you know, if this is like Monster Hunter or something like that, these aren't really story heavy games, quite frankly. You know, like they don't lean on the story. So you know, you can get away with just introducing random mobs, random monsters without really any backdrops, any stories in games like those. However, Phantasy Star Online, you know, is kind of in that same realm of like a Final Fantasy, whereas they're usually heavily driven to some degree by story. And when you start with this product being that way, it's important to continue with that product being that way. Like I said, I understand that there's lots of different obstacles within the project that is NGS that are unique to it, because, like I said, it's a completely different game compared to what they have been using for 20 years prior to NGS, that same format. So that allowed for, I think, a bit smoother or easier way to implement stories and stuff like that, because you're not worried so much about gameplay aspects, because it's the same gameplay aspects that you've been using since 2000 up till 2021 when NGS was released. So I do understand that. But just saying that the story, this is kind of problematic, and and people definitely have legitimate reason to be upset or concerned there, especially with them stating that the August story update that you see there is going to be like mini episodes. And remember, in the past, that they kind of stated that they would trickle in story more frequently. However, it looks like while they said that, they weren't able to do that. So naturally, that's probably not going to make some people very happy. So that's my thought on the story there. But on the plus side, Dark Falls Vaels does come with a story. So that's a start. That is a start. Vael does come with a story also. Rejoice at least for that. Now, the big thing I want to get into here is this field update. The field update, which is paired with new enemies, slated for June to July. This is I can essentially call this the make or break for the game, quite frankly. This is the make or break for the game. Now, the field update and how it's listed here, with it just being field update, I'm 50-50 on this. I'm very skeptical, because what they need, when you read field update on here, what this needs to mean is like a new field update. Like, I don't know, like maybe like not alpha, or something of alpha scale to a degree, like an actual field update. If this means a new nameless city type update, I don't want to. And by no means am I a doomsayer. I'm not a doomsayer. Y'all know I'm not a doomsayer. But if this is like a nameless city type update, when it says field update, that might be it for the game. that generally might be it for the game, y'all. The field update that this needs to be something that really grabs the attention of the player. And it doesn't feel like just a bunch of the same. It's not a 15-minute trial that Nameless City is that we use for, a week or two and then never go back to again until like some airdoms are recycled in it. This field update is huge for the game. So I don't know what they're cooking. Like I said, I'm being skeptical and optimistic on it, but I don't know what they're cooking there. And let's just hope that what they're cooking is actually something worth cooking. They said there's new enemies here. Like they clearly say there's new enemies here, so that gives hope that maybe it's bigger than just like some Nameless City stuff. Maybe that gives some hope. But that could easily just be a Nameless City and then popping some new enemies in there. So I don't know. Simply don't know. And I'm very skeptical on it entirely. So that's kind of my input on the field update. I'm hoping that it's something worthwhile, because if it's not, like I said, that might be the nail in the coffin. If they just throw out a Nameless City and then just kind of do the whole recycle thing again, I don't know if you can get away with that again, especially with how on edge the player base is kind of. I don't think you can get away with that again, honestly speaking. So of course you see here they have a bunch of limited time quests here, and during the same period, and an ultra high difficulty standing party quests, which of course we're looking forward to. Also looking forward to new ultra high difficulty standing party quests. That's a great addition, but all this is really overshadowed by field update. Like I said, that field update, if that field update ain't it, then yeah. Anyways, for August and onwards, the limited time urgent quests, limited time quests, and the story update, which I mentioned, is mini episodes, which is not good. And then there's a new action system with more new enemies introduced. So we do see 2-month periods, or two periods, 2 months in each period, with new enemies introduced. So that hopefully is a good sign for the field update, quote unquote, because you see new enemies being added in multiple occasions. However, like I said, that could easily just be new enemies being added. It's just like it's not really even a new enemy, or it's like there's so many ways around that. Like I understand business lingo. I'm a smart individual with a degree, and with a lot of logicality behind me, and I do understand the business side of things, and I do understand the wording. And new enemies field update is a vague term that could be used for pretty much anything. So I'm not sure on it, man. I'm not sure, but look, we're hoping for the best, and I don't want to get y'all worried or anything, because that's far off. But all I'm saying is that if that doesn't deliver, then there's probably going to be a lot of people walking out the door. Plain and simple. Now, with that being said, they also did say that they intend for the game to be operating for a long time to come. This was stated within the video that they released for the NGS operation report. They did say, we intend NGS to be operating for a long time to come. So that gives no reason to believe that, they're not planning for more bigger stuff. But like I said, if that field update ain't what we think it's going to be, there may not be people here for that bigger, better stuff that they might be planning. Simply put. Now, I'm moving away from the roadmap, which is what the bulk of everything was here that I really wanted to address of. But moving away from it, we'll wrap this up on some other interesting elements that are being added, such as in February, that update to the personal shop. So in February, the personal shop update will happen where it allows you to put 50 items instead of the current 30 on your personal shop. So a 20 slots increase. This is pretty huge. thought this is very notable to address and notable to mention, because this does make a huge impact for everyone, allowing more slots on the personal shop to be used to sell items and to have more items up there to sell to make more meseta. Because you can be a little limited, because sometimes it takes things a long time to sell, especially with the higher price items. Might take a long time to sell. You have to be patient with it, and they're kind of taking up space. So this allows for a much better experience with the personal shop. To wrap it up, did want to just re-mention again that from the February 1st to the 4th, the PSO2 Day Ultra and the last part of the Super Genesis Festival will overlap, so the RDR boost will be stacked upon. So it's going to be pretty heavy, so keep that marked, because that will be a good time for you to be trying to get things, whatever things there are to be getting at that time. It will be a good time to be trying to get those. There's also a new anime collab coming for a certain Magical Index 3 collab. That's going to be in February as well. So do look forward to that. That looks pretty interesting. I have no idea what the hell that series is, but looks interesting nonetheless. Kind of looks like I guess it feels like almost like an isekai. It's like two worlds intertwined or something like that. So I wish they would stop making isekais, because isekais are way too outplayed and have been for the past like 15, 20 years, something like that. Yeah, missed the golden era of anime, that's for sure. Definitely miss it. That about wraps it up. That's really all I really want to dive into here and really just address and talk about was really that roadmap. And then, y'all know, just to recap on those new augments, the Dual Quest Extra. Of course, like I said, there's some AC scratches scattered throughout. We're having some SG scratches coming as well. So do keep that in mind for any needs that you might be planning or preparing to be augmenting or anything of the sort. Do keep that in mind. Of course, as new stuff is released, we'll keep you updated, as we always will, always have. So be sure to stay tuned here, like, subscribe. Be sure to pop into the streams. Feel free to ask me questions, all the above. We all know I love engaging with the community, asking questions, or answering questions, and asking questions. I'm a listener first. I'm a talker second. Always remember that. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you think. And I will see you on the next one. Let me know what you think about that field area. You know what I'm saying? Let's what you thinking, bro? What you thinking, sis? What you, it's like Spike to content.